Hey and welcome. In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to create a test automation framework in under 60 minutes. This will be a production level automation framework that you can code, get it ready, release it into production, and start providing value to your employer in under 60 minutes. It uses a new technique known as acceptance test driven automation that I'm going to teach you here. My name is Nikolai Dvolotkin. I am the founder of UltimateQA.com, where our goal is to create the highest paid and most recruited test automation engineers in the world. Let's dive right in. So, acceptance test driven automation is a programming technique that is designed to create automation that is intuitive, scalable, and extremely agile. It is really great for anyone starting out in test automation so that you know how to build test automation frameworks very intuitively. And it is phenomenal for even more advanced automation engineers because it will provide you the skills to be able to scale your test automation in a manner that avoids over engineering and allows you to meet the current needs of your test automation environment. There are only a few rules to acceptance test driven automation that I'm going to show you here. Rule number one is that you must use the page object pattern. Everything must be coded in a well-defined page object pattern. After you know that initial rule and you make your tests using the page object pattern, there are 5 iterations that you're going to go through in your test automation that will develop your entire automation framework. So first, you're going to enter the red phase. In the red phase, you write your first uncompiled test. In the green phase, you will make that uncompiled test pass. Next, you'll enter the refactor phase where you're going to clean up the code. Next, you're going to enter the red phase where you're actually going to make sure that your test fails as you designed it. And finally, you're going to make your test green, make it pass, and it is now ready to go into production. And we will iterate through these cycles over and over, developing our test automation framework and scaling it to the moon and achieving amazing test automation. Enough talk, let's jump right in. Okay, so as you can see here, what I have open is IntelliJ, and I've simply have this solution here that's already laid out, and I just started this class. Inside of this class, I started out with this test that I began to code, and I cheated only a little bit. We could do this from scratch, absolutely, it won't be a problem, but I cheated a little bit for this to not keep you bored. How did I cheat? I already downloaded Chrome driver because you really want to watch me download Chrome driver and put it into a folder. So that's already done. And I simply just have this method ready for you here because, again, it's boring to watch me code out this method. But the rest of the stuff I'm going to do live. We're going to do it in under 60 minutes. And I'm going to have 2 automated tests ready to go to production that are fully capable of doing phenomenal test automation. So let's go ahead and proceed. So the very first thing that we need to do is enter into the red phase. In the red phase, we code out a non-compiling automated functional test using plain English and using page object pattern. So let's go do that. So what's the very first thing we're going to need? We're going to need a web driver. And the only thing I cheated again is just getting this get driver method. Okay, now that we have a driver, let's talk about the application that we're going to automate, right? So here is our application that we're going to automate. The very first test, I'm going to keep it super simple as we always should, is open up this page and make sure that it renders. Next test that we're going to do is going to be a simple positive test login. And so those are going to be our 2 tests. Let's begin with the very first test. So after we have our driver, we're going to need a page object, right? What are we going to call this? We're going to call this a login page. And of course, we'll want to pass in our driver. Excellent. Next, what are we going to do with our login page? Well, we're going to open it. And then after we open it, we need an assertion to make sure that it's loaded, right? Fantastic. There is our red phase, first uncompiled test. And at this point, we need to make this test compile. So one of the very reasons why this technique is so powerful is rather than thinking about all of the dependencies that go where they need to go, which dependencies do I need, if we know the API a little bit and we think about the logic beforehand as we're writing the test, we can actually let the IDE create everything for us and solve all of our problems. So for example, it doesn't recognize WebDriver, right? Well, so obviously WebDriver is a Maven dependency, so we can just go and get that Maven dependency. We can search for the artifact here, Selenium, and there we go. I don't want the alpha version yet, so I'm going to stick to 3.14159. Excellent. So that grabbed our dependency, and now we just need to import the class. That resolves that problem, and of course we'll import that class as well. Here, excellent. So those are imported. Now we're gonna resolve this dependency. Look, again, using our IDE to solve all of our problems really easily. This is why this technique is so good and fast, is it reduces a bunch of steps in the test automation process that we would normally have to do manually. So let's create a class login page. See that? Boom, already have an automatic class. Sure, let's add it to source control. Excellent, let's go back. And of course, we need to add a constructor. Let's create a constructor. It's going to take a WebDriver, and we'll do this. And we'll set it to the driver, right at which point we'll need to create a field. Excellent. And so we're all set there. Next, we need an open method. Let's create an open method. Fantastic. What will this open method do? Well, it's going to use driver, get, and then we'll pass in our URL, right? All right, fantastic. Next, we need an assertion. So let's see what this is complaining about. Oh, we just need to import a static method. Of course, I cheated also a little bit. I added the rest of the dependencies like JUnit and Maven and all that kind of stuff. Just again, because why make you bored from all these imports? But you see the idea that you just basically use your IDE to solve all of the problems for you. And then whenever you need to fill in implementation details, you fill in the implementation details. So we've resolved all of that. Let's do a isLoaded method. Okay, excellent. And so to assert that our page is loaded, we always want to use an explicit wait. So let's do a WebDriver wait. A new WebDriver wait, and that takes in a driver, and then we'll set a timeout to 10 seconds. Fantastic. And then we want to wait until expected conditions. Let's see. I'm going to do this, visibility of element located. Make sure that it's visible. And now what locator are we going to want to get? Why don't we grab this swag labs? Let's check that out. Class. Actually, even better, let's grab this just username field. And that is here, ID username. Fantastic. And we want to return a Boolean. So let's say that this is displayed. Perfect. This is displayed as a Selenium method, if you didn't know. Excellent. And of course, we need a return statement. There we go. Fantastic. All done. All right. Our first test is ready. Wasn't that insanely easy and fast? So we went through the red phase. We just finished the green phase. And now our test is going to pass. So let's run this. We're making our test pass. Let's make sure it's running. Fantastic. Opening it up. and excellent. So the test is running and passing. So now we enter the refactor phase. In the refactor phase, we look for any duplications and any thing that will hinder our future test automation code. A lot of it is duplication. You might introduce some pattern somewhere. You might introduce some abstraction, some encapsulation somewhere. And for me, at this point of time, this test looks excellent. Everything is good. We're not going to over-engineer anything. We know some things that might come up in the future, right? We probably need a setup method. We probably need a teardown method, but we're not going to engineer that because those are not our current requirements. And so if those are not our current requirements, we are not going to meet them. And so as this current test stands, I believe it's in the best form possible. It uses the page object pattern. It looks great. It's easy to read. It works. Everything is great. We are done with the refactor phase. And so the only two phases to check are to make sure that our test is failing, right? And so for that, we can come in here and change this to make sure that it fails. So we obviously change the ID. So let's run it and see that it fails. And then we also get to see the error that comes up to see if we like that error. And then after this red phase, we just go back to the green phase because we just fixed the error. So the last two are really easy. They almost happen simultaneously. You just test to make sure that your test fails, which it did. You can see that it took a really long time. And you can see here that here's the test. It failed. And here's the exception. You can see that we were waiting for this element to found. We tried it, but we didn't find it. And so it failed. And so now we just turn it back to green and we are solid. That is done. We are done through our first iteration. We've already written our first test. And this is right now ready to go to production. Yes, I know it's missing a bunch of features. You can add logging. You can add a bunch of other stuff here. But you can literally push this test to production right now and it can start running and it can start validating the quality of your software and letting you know whether you can or cannot go to production with your software. How awesome is that? Technically, we could be done here, but I promised you a lot more in under 60 minutes. And so now we're going to write even a second test and extend the automation framework so you can see how easy it is to continue to make this process work. All right, so are you ready for the second test? I'm super excited to show you where this goes because you'll see the power of simplicity being applied to test automation framework design using acceptance test-driven automation. So the second test we want to do is come here and log in, right? Super simple. So let's go ahead and attempt that test. So we're entering into the red phase, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy this over. And let's call this should log in. Okay, excellent. So this is good, this is good, this is good, and this is great. All of this is good, right? And so now we just want to make sure that a user can successfully log in. So let's start doing that. And then we'll want to pass in username and access key. Username and password. So I'm just going to grab that, set that here. I'm going to grab the password. This is a very secret password. Make sure you don't share it with anybody. Okay, we're logged in. And now all we need to do is assert that we are successfully logged in, right? So, oh, and then let me show you what that next page will look like. And I'm calling this a products page. And so that's what we're going to do. So we want a new. And that will, of course, take a driver. And then we want to assert that it's loaded. Excellent. All right, so that is our test, right? The red phase. We've written a test using the page object pattern and standard English, clear to read English for our test. So we're logged in and then that's it. And so now that's the red phase complete. Now we need to go into the green phase and make this test pass. So let's go ahead and make it compile. So I'm going to go ahead here and use our IDE to create this method, log in, right? So let's change this. This is going to be username. This is going to be password. Excellent. And so now we need to locate our elements. Since we already did a explicit wait synchronization here, we're no longer needing to do explicit wait, so we can now just use find element command. So let's see, I believe that they had IDs. Let's go back. In fact, yeah, we've already found this. I know it's ID. Username, and the other one is password. Just memorize that in my head, just so I don't have to go back. Username, we're gonna send keys, and we're gonna send the username there. Excellent. We're gonna send in the password here, right? That's right. And then we're going to send keys and password. Excellent. That is done. And then we just need to click the login button, right? Let's see what that login button looks like. Oh, it has a class. Okay, I'll use a class. Not the best locator, but let's just do that. So now, and let's do a click. Oh, not clear. Click. Excellent. All right, fantastic. So login method should be complete. We just implemented it, and now let's go ahead and implement the products page, which is obviously failing. So we'll just use our IDE to create a new class called the product page. Yes, we will add it to this package. Yeah, I'm going to stop telling you to stop complaining about my code. Driver, let's do the same thing as before. And I hope that you're starting to notice some duplication right now that we're doing here. This will come in handy in the refactoring phase. Fantastic, and I hope you're noticing some duplication here as well. So is loaded, and since it is duplication, I'm actually going to come in here and steal this logic from here. And pay attention to that duplication. It will be important in the refactoring phase. So we got our WebDriver wait time out of 10 seconds, and by the ID, this is what is going to change. So let's grab the user again. Let's grab the password. Log in, and what do we want to find? Let's check this out. Does this have an ID? It doesn't. I think this inventory container. I'm happy with this inventory container because it's not going to exist if we weren't logged in. So let's supply that ID. IDs are always best. Fantastic. Okay, cool. So if that's displayed, this will work. So, okay. So let's take a look at our test again. Our test is complete. And if we run it, it's green, it compiles. Let's give it a shot. Cool. So there it is, right? And it passes. I see because I get these little notifications on my computer, but also you can see here that it is passing successfully. So now we are going to enter into the refactor phase. And at this point, we clean up any duplication and any kind of inconsistent behaviors or any inefficiencies that we don't want here. So let's take a look at what we have done here so far. And where I'm right away seeing duplication is right here, right? We're creating drivers 2 times. So what does that mean? We're going to need to implement a setup method. And let's add our before each attribute. Excellent. And I'm going to take this, place that in here. And then I'm going to get rid of this. It's going to complain the compiler. See how I'm using the compiler? And then I tell it to create a local field. Oh, sorry. I picked the wrong one. Let's create a field. Yep. There you go. Look at that. Now I've got my driver here. Excellent, right? So I've got my driver here that I can use in each of my tests. And so now we're getting rid of this line of duplication. Fantastic. What else here? This to me looks good. There's nothing really needs to be cleaned up here or between here. But you know what else I'm going to add is a teardown because I'm tired of closing the driver. All of our test automation frameworks will always have this. But again, what we're making sure is that we are never doing premature optimization of features that are not going to come up. And so I'm doing it on a need basis because especially if you're starting out, you don't know what the next step is to take in your test automation development. You're kind of guessing. And so this process, the refactoring phase, really tells you what is the next step to take in your process because you focus on cleaning up duplication and you focus on cleaning up inefficiencies, and then you use your engineering prowess and your programming prowess to solve those problems. And so this is how we're solving those problems right now. You don't need to worry about the problems that are going to come up in the future. When those problems come in the future, that's when we're going to use our engineering talent and programming skills to solve those problems. But until then, don't even worry about it. So I'm going to be quitting our browsers here. And so let's see what else is left here. So we've got all of this. So these tests look pretty good to me. I mean, I could move this into the setup method. I prefer to keep it here. It's up to you. Maybe if you get another test method going, maybe then at that point I'll move it into the setup method. But right now, everything is good. Remember, however, we did a bunch of duplication in our page objects. Let's go take a look at those. So in our page objects, number one, we're duplicating setting this driver. Number two, we had duplicated is loaded methods. So let's clean these up. So the very first thing we're going to do is I'm going to force this to implement a base page. Because common pieces of functionality, I'm just going to move them into a parent class. Excellent. So created a base page. And so now I'm going to replace this part here and just pass in a driver. All right. So of course it complains that there is no constructor. So I'm going to let the IDE solve that problem for me. Boom. There it is. Beautiful. Right. And then of course we'll do this driver is equal to the driver that we passed in. We'll let the IDE again resolve this problem for us. So easy. The IDE is so smart and great. Let's get rid of this. Of course, we no longer need it. So that problem is solved. And then while I'm in here, remember we also duplicated this logic here. So it seems like we need the WebDriver wait class. We can actually move it into our base page. So that's what I'm going to do as well. And I'm going to create that here. So there's a WebDriver wait. And actually, I want to instantiate that. I want to set that here. And I just want to instantiate it in the constructor. There we go. Beautiful. So now we have a wait class that we can use in all of our page objects. Oh, sorry, messed that up here. There you go. Excellent. So that is great. Remove that duplication. Oh, here's another piece of duplication is we have this locator that we've duplicated. So we can also fix that part. So we can set that right here. Sorry, and I always forget that in Java, the getters and setters are methods. So let's do, that's better, like that, right? And so then this will just return this. That'll be a buy, and then that, and then we can get rid of that. All right, perfect. There you go. And so this part will be get username, and actually I'm going to do get username locator. That's better, and we'll get rid of this duplication here as well. There you go, perfect. We've gotten rid of all of that duplication here. So there we go. Let's move on to our other class, the products page, and get rid of that duplication. So we don't need this any longer. Here we just do pass it into our base page. Excellent. And then we don't even need this because we already have it in our base page. And of course, this is complaining, so we need to extend our base page. Excellent. That is good. And then is loaded method. Good. There's no duplication of this locator. Here in the future, yes, it's very possible that this locator will get used in multiple places, at which point you're going to extract it out into a getter method, and then you're going to use that getter method. But until that point, do not do premature optimization. All right, so now look, our classes are extra clean. We could potentially even move this method into the base page class and force every single page object to have an isLoaded method and override it and potentially add its own by implementation. But that depends. Let's continue to see where this goes. For now, I'm happy with this implementation. Maybe future pages will not even need this isLoaded method. So I just want to see where it goes. So, okay, cool. So we've done all the cleanup, I believe. So here is the login page, as clean as it can be. Here is the products page. Both are clean. And so I believe we're done with the refactor phase. Everything has been refactored. Everything is clean. And we are good to go. So what I'm going to do now here is I'm going to run both of these tests. And actually, let's make sure that after our refactoring, all of our tests are still successful. Excellent. So our tests are passed. Let's make our test fail, and we really only need to make the second one fail because we've seen the first one fail. So is loaded. We can come in here and add an S and then run this test and see it fail. Always don't skip this step. Seeing a failing test is one of the most important things that you can do, because then it tells you that your test can actually fail. I can't tell you the number of times that I've seen tests that will never fail. So it's really important. It's also really important for you to read that message and think about, will this error message make it really easy for me to figure out what went wrong? For me, it will be able to make it very easy, because you can see that it's trying to find this element, and then we get this nice stack trace here that will tell me exactly what happened. And then if I dig into the stack trace, I can see here that it happened at this method here in isLoaded method, and then I can go check what's going on in there. Cool. So that's all good. Let's remove that. Let's make it pass one last time. Again, as I've told you before, all of these last two steps are really easy. And oh, and you know what I noticed is our drivers aren't quitting. So let's go fix that. I wonder what's up with that. And I think I already know. Oh, it should have closed. Let's give it a shot again and see. Make sure that everything is working. Oh, interesting. I wonder if this test is going to fail because it can't find the element. Did I fix that? Yeah, that failed. I believe I just never... Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was the problem, of course. Yep. And so now... Sorry, talking too much and trying to do coding as well. My brain, I can focus really well on one thing. Doing multiple things is extremely tough for me. I am a guy after all. Okay, fantastic. So that is it. We have just written 2 production level tests. We've written a framework that is production ready. This is really good. This is code that we all can be proud of. We can take it to our mom and say, Mom, look at this code that we have been able to achieve. Our mom will give us a hug. She'll give us a gold medal. We will be extremely proud of ourselves. Our employer will begin to get value from our test automation in under 1 hour. We can literally start running this code in our CI pipeline right now, all thanks to acceptance test driven automation, iterating through 5 simple steps, and continuing to expand our automation. As we continue to do this, we can just add more tests, right? If they belong under this feature, we're going to add more tests under this feature. If they go to different features, we'll add different features. What you're going to notice at some point is we'll have a lot of page objects, right? So we might move them into a pages folder. We'll have a lot of tests, so we might move them somewhere else. We'll have maybe different kinds of tests, and we'll slowly move and organize things without doing premature optimization. And as we do that, our framework will continue to run, will continue to work, will continue to provide almost immediate feedback and value to our employers, and we will be the best automation engineers in the world. Thank you so much for your time. It's been my pleasure. Nikolai Volodkin, founder of UltimateQA.com. If you want more of this kind of content, make sure that you sign up for the complete Selenium WebDriver with Java Bootcamp. You can get more information at this URL here, and I will teach you many other such topics. Talk to you later.